Hello, hello, hello. Anybody who does come hang out, I guess talking to you in the moment, but uh, I was going to stream Mass Effect today, and then real life refuses to let me go, so I couldn't start at noon, and so I'm only going to have like an hour and a half tops to do anything, and that's not really enough time to get anything done. I'm sure I could save partway through something in Mass Effect, but I'd rather do it thing, start to finish, as much as possible. So, I'm just going to hang out and play a little Tiny Glade, which, if you haven't heard of it, is just super fun. It's basically doodling, but you're doodling with 3D building of castles and buildings and landscape, and it's just a fun, chill vibe. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I had been watching some tips and tricks, and I wish I remembered whose video it was, but it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and it's full of all sorts of building tips, and it's very, very useful. I'm going to start by building some terrain, build like an elevated thing. So we'll do that and go from there. This is a demo. The full game is not out yet. So as you can see, I've got this white circle I can build within. And if I try and hit out, like I think, like you see this demo thing, and sometimes you can see like a big old square, or yeah, right there, full game. So in theory, I think we'll have this much larger area to play with when this game comes out. But I've messed around with it a little, and it is a fun time. So we're going to build that. It's taking up too much space. I want a gap here. And that's still kind of too much space. The problem is you start with that circle and then it goes wider than you're thinking, so it's just kind of a learning curve. exactly what the tool does. But the whole point, dang it, is I want a bridge, so. You can kind of affect how steep it is. Leave that basically flat. And I'm going to do chunks here because I think I want more dramatic chunks. I want to kind of increase the elevation as we go, so I can make a path that comes up here. Okay, so now we'll raise these up to be our high points. Raise them higher. Then I want to raise that. There, which will make this higher still. So we'll just get it all the way up. The problem is now I've made it too dang thick again. You know what? It works. You can kind of see that as I add pathing, it'll affect the terrain and put stairs in place. So we've got a logical way. Places to get from where they are to where they're going. And I'm just going to lower this terrain back down, all the way back. There we go. So now I've kind of got steps at each level. There we go. And now we can kind of think about what we want to do. I've got this space to build on and this space to build on. And realistically down here too, but I'm not going to do. I might put something right here. Or up here where there's a little bit of a corner. Actually, that corner is entirely outside of my circle, so there, if anything. First things first, we want something to cross this gap. Try to rotate that a little. Give myself some breathing room. If I click, it just puts it in place. And let's turn off passage of time and make it light again so we can see what we're doing. Normally I like to have that passage of time because as you go through here, you'll add lamps and windows and they'll light up, which is very fun. One thing I don't want is the stairs I wanted in the middle have also ended up on the edges of these cliffs, so I want to stop that. Let's just delete the path there. Then I'm just going to use the skinniest path tool. I'm going to have to hit the edges there just to make that path a little bit wider. As much as I'm not trying to have random steps in these cliff walls, that is going to give me the breathing room I need to make this path big enough to be almost believable. But back to this, if I right click on that, I can stretch this across, and then I can raise the base of this it sits kind of in the ground here, and you can see this weird little door thing. That is because of the pathing below it. If you put a path up to a wall, it will make a door. For now, I want to make the roof just this, and make that as thin as it will go. Lower so that it's as thick as this is going to be. And what we will do on this side You know what? I'm going to cover this bridge before I do anything else. So we're going to take another building guy, and it will snap to the edges of this, so that way I know it's parallel, in theory. There. So now it looks wonky, but it gets me where I need to go. So I'm going to put that almost to the edge on this side, almost to the edge on that side. And that's what I've really been enjoying about this. I've only been playing it for like a couple hours total. But you can stack things, blend them, so now these bits of the lower part that is now my bridge are kind of sticking up and decorating the edge. I'm going to slide that back so these poke through. And most of the things that you place will just interact with the stuff around them in a very nice way. What I'm going to need to do here to get that look on both sides is there's a minimum width, and they're both the minimum width. So I need to, rather than making the top bit any narrower, I need to widen my bridge. Here we go. Now those poke out. I'm going to make this as short as possible, and then this game will let you raise it up, and that automatically puts some columns in. Move that all the way to the edge on both sides. So I've got some columns, but I think I want some middle columns, so I'm going to do this yet again. And it automatically put columns down to like the bottom of that canyon thing, but because I moved it back so it felt like it was supported, and I don't want that overhang, so I'm going to put it there. It readjusts based on where you're putting it. Like I said, kind of generates. We're going to make it as short as possible, and then raise it up to be more or less level. And it will just kind of blend things together so I can overlap my other columns. There we go. And that way these columns will become kind of in the middle. And then if I get rid of, go up a little, there we go. Get rid of this roof. Now it becomes just these crenellated edges, just like those at the bottom. But now they will decorate up top. Yes, okay. Then we're going to do that again to get some columns on the other side. Here we go. Same deal, make that flush more or less on both sides. And then we will raise it up to be, that is sticking out, so we will push it back. There we go. More or less. And push it up a little higher. And get rid of the extra height. And get rid of the roof. And now we can stretch it down to the end. And a lot of this is just eyeballing it, but well, pretty much all of it's just eyeballing it. And that's kind of more or less what I would want this spaced as, though it's not far enough over. Here we go. And that is enough columns, but now my crenellations don't go all the way across, so we will do it one more time. Get rid of the roof, so I get those crenellations again. Make that as short as possible. Raise it up, more or less the same. And blend those two columns on that side. And that side, so I don't get any additional columns, I just get the crenellations. And now, I more or less have a covered bridge. I do want to mess with this. Not so much, okay. Do I want that? I definitely want roof. I don't want that. I think for now I'm going to keep that lower roof with the spike, but I might widen that back out. I don't know if I liked that or not. And then up here I'm going to build kind of a little gatehouse idea. Another one. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stretch this guy across temporarily so that I can snap this to it so I know it's parallel. And then I can stretch this back to where it was. This is scotch taller, so they're kind of matching. And then I'm going to erase my path here so that I can kind of thin it, point it in the right direction, so it's going to go through these two. And this is 2. There we go. It's nudged as much as I kind of want to nudge it. And what I'm going to do is then build a tower more or less in between them. I think that is probably too wide for what I want. Wider than that, though. That's probably about right. Then now I need to fix this. A path will make a door when it hits a wall unless the path is too big, and it'll eventually become an arch. So we're going to get rid of that. I'm actually going to go to the skinnier path tool. There we go. And I went too big, so. Try to get rid of some of the plants as we're going in. And I'm having to nudge. Alright, well that's probably as big as we're going to get it, but it's a good size. Forgive me, I'm getting messages. Sorry, there we go. Okay, there's a lot of decoration and things to be done to this, but it's not something I'm going to do now. I'm going to start with that being its own thing. Now I could drag both of these back to make more building this way, or if I just want to make a new building behind the rest and blend them together. I think that is what I want to do, so we'll start with that. Stretch it across and try and blend these two walls more or less. More or less. And then on this side, scooch it back until that kind of blends. And then drag. See, that's what we're going to run into is the boundary. So I can only go about that far. So if I thin this up and kind of intentionally make it narrower, I can get to about there. And I want to keep going. So I'm going to continue narrowing. Foos, hello, Tiny Glade. I was thinking about you when I was playing this earlier, because there's no violence, which is your proclaimed video game interest, but I assume you like to doodle. And this is just doodling with three-dimensional objects. I've played it for a couple hours total, and it's so much fun. You have a terrain tool, a path tool, a freeform wall, and a couple pre-shaped buildings. This is all a demo. And then you can add windows and lamps. It is very peaceful. But as you can see, like, I'm overlapping several types of building, and it just procedurally puts things together. Like, it added a bird's nest when he's got... You could play it. I think you could. I think you'd have a fun time. But then again, you know what you like. What am I talking about? But it is very much just building a diorama because you can. That as thin as that building's going to get. It does get me where I want to go, though. Just not wide as I would like. So, I could go wide on one side and reevaluate my original layout. Okay, that more or less gets those at the same wall. I can nudge this whole thing over. I just don't really want to. No Mass Effect, simply because I had to go take care of errands I wasn't expecting to, and then it left me with like an hour and a half of free time to stream, and that's just not really enough time to get anything done. Now, depending, the RNG could have sent me to like 4 side quests or so, and they all could have been wrapped up fairly quick, but I did not want to mess with it. See, what's going to bug me now is those aren't going to hit at a nice angle, but I guess I could just rotate everything. So if I rotate you, oh gosh, it's going to rotate in pieces. That's the rough part about what I've done. Oh, you're going to now? Like I have time now? No, you have time now because you have to go get food. Food is important, I hear. It prevents you from starving to death. Okay, I'm going to separate all my pieces. I will, thank you. And throw them aside so that I can rotate things and angle them properly. Nope, don't need to add a roof. I need to drag that. Toast's clawing on my couch, which you have many things to scratch, Toast. My couch is not one of them. Some sort of tool to snap things to an angle, because a lot of this is just eyeballing it until it feels right. That feels more or less right. Start from the other end for this to make any sense to my brain. So I'm going to need to do that. Try and get this more or less lined up like it was. Oh, and what I can do here is push that building back temporarily to get it out of my way. Theory, this guy should still just kind of fit overlapping the other two. Okay, that's more or less parallel. That's about right. You know, as we're doing all this, it's going to drive me insane. It's about right, but it's not right. So, redoing base of this. In fact, I'm going to redo this too. There we go. Because this snapping will force that to be parallel. Means I can nudge it to the edge and then stretch it across. Go further. This end I know I want open. So now I can snap to the edge of this again. And push that in. This end over. Just enough so I don't have that column, but I do like these guys that show up. So now we are going to drag that. Here we go. Had to find a sweet spot where I get these guys, but not the big column. So it's going to hang off a little bit from the edge, but that is okay. Now we make this one also as short as possible. Hard part is sometimes these buttons overlap and you hit when you're not meaning to. But now I can raise this guy up until the roof levels more or less match. Shorten this guy and do another one, and then kind of blend it. So instead of 4 columns, we'll have 3, but that will look just fine. There we go. You know, that does get rid of my little guys, but that's okay. No idea if you can hear that. I was very confused because it's just a whirring sound in my space. And it is just a sound I'm going to have to get used to because I splurged and got a box for toast that is automated. So it's going to just clear itself out whenever toast uses it. Okay, so we've got the roof level about right. So now we want this to, oh, jeez. This can't be touching. Want that to go to the end. And we just want to kind of eyeball the middle. Okay, so now we've got a covered bridge going to this kind of gatehouse idea. And I'm going to fill in this space by having kind of another angled piece. Get rid of the roof and turn this into like a lowered balcony. I like what it did with these little vertical stripy things. It's like I said, one of my favorite things about spending time doing this. It's very chill. As you go, it will just kind of fill things in. Now this I'm shoving just kind of vaguely in the middle so I can widen it out. So what I'd like to do is line that up and make it part of a curve, but that's going to make this way too big, so fill that in. Yeah, that more or less lines up. So if I get rid of this roof as well, and there you go, line it up. Oh, a little too far. You can kind of see where they overlap, so you're gonna kind of, there we go, so there's both there. So now I've got this balcony bit to fill in. Now I can decide what I want to do with these roofs. I'm going to lower this one. Stretch it out. Keep that low like that. This guy, stretch upwards along with these. More or less the same. So that is going to be, yeah, very quickly, just a cool little castle on the hill. Go over here. Kind of right at the edge of what it'll let me build on, going down to this cliff. I'm going to build this guy. We're going to make that a tall tower. And we're going to widen it up some. Kind of fill in what we can use. And then we will make for ourselves. We'll start with that. Kind of nudge it as far back. There we go. As we can. And angle it. Kind of more parallel. Send this out. There's the edge of the cliff. I don't want to go too far. There we go. Now it's kind of dig it in. And like these is the kind of detail I like. It just fills in this line that continues over. And it can't really go much farther that way. And that kind of fills it in there. Nudge it a little bit more. So we've got this big old tower. I wonder if that's too wide. Excuse me. Let's go with it for now. I'm going to build. Let's narrow that up. There we go. Kind of as narrow as that gets. And I'm going to kind of aim. So let's 1, 2, 3, 4. Like 4 shingles up on that. So if I do the same over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This kind of match. I might move that a little bit closer to the side. a little. And what I'm going to do is lower these both down. What I should have done before. Let's see, I can widen it a little bit. What I wish you had was like a copy paste feature so you could ensure things were the same diameter, or even just like a tool that told you what the radius was, so you could match it up. It's hard to tell, but more or less. Let's see, it's poking up the wall a little bit, it's poking up the wall a little bit. You know what, these, assuming I had them spot on before, these little vertical lines where these are starting to affect the front, I'm kind of just eyeballing the match there, which I think also should mean that if I really wanted to match, I gotta nudge it over, but that should more or less be okay. Now the reason I'm doing that is I want to ideally right in the middle of this. Which it absolutely is not. I do not want to mess with the diameter, thank you. I wanted to mess with the positioning. So basically I'm going off these crenellations. Honestly, as I'm doing it, let's move that out the way. And move this inside some. And even as I'm trying to just eyeball things, I want things to match. So I'm going to go. I was up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go up to the 5th one. That is hard to see through my own. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go up to the 6th one. Then I should have more room to make things wider, which will let me actually achieve the look I'm going for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good lord. 6. Nah, it's just not wide enough for what I wanted to do there. So we'll come up with a different plan. First things first, though, I'm going to put pathing around the edge of this, and what that will do is create stairs at the edge so you can walk up and take this bridge. And while we're here, I'm going to place a window, which should be, yes, smart enough when it's near floor to just become a door instead. And you can place up to 3 next to each other to create a wider set of doors. So we have created a door onto our bridge. Now I want to consider what I want to do with this. So if I were to decide that this is too wide, what feels right? That feels better. Position this further back. That's officially connecting there. That's why those popped up. Okay, I want that a little bit wider there. That will let me re-explore how wide I can have this. Less than you would think. There's not a ton of gap for me to fill that in with a wider chunk. I can make it slightly wider, but Not much. If I narrow this though, and widen this side to match, it's more or less centered. It feels like a more intentional building, and gives me some more room on this side to actually make little things. So I'm going to put that on this side, as far over in each direction as I can. Don't have to worry about the height at the moment. I am going to bring this in to see how far I can bring it out first, and then go over. Okay. Just like I did on the other building, I am going to remove the roof and lower this down as a balcony. I want that to be a higher balcony than we had over here. And then this, I was considering making stairs to it, but because of the boundary, we're not going to really have space for that. So I think I am instead going to, again, just give us a door. What I'm going to do here is put like a front facade on this guy. So I'm going to make that not quite all the way to either end. That is more or less centered. I do actually want this to be narrower though. Make this lower down. I've changed what I was going to do, because what I was originally going to do was what I'm doing now, which is attaching yet another piece, getting rid of the roof, and lowering it down. Make that as small as we can. Basically right until those are starting to come out. Do the same over here. And make sure that's as low as it can go. So now what should happen? There we go. So if I place path around the sides, that will make more stairs. And then I can put in, theory, I should be able to put in a door. So if I push that back a little, or that I can pull this forward, so I pull this back forward until I can just see enough of that floor. There we go. Make these double doors and kind of vaguely center them, and just while I'm thinking of it, some lamps. And a window. And we're just gonna fill in that pathed area. And if I do a freestanding lamp over here, angle it appropriately. Just a little bit of set decoration over there. Okay. So do I want to put something here is the question. cheap, apparently. We're going to put this all the way to ground. Then if I put under all of that, there we go, stairs just into this little space. Let's see if I can get this to, there we go, snap. That is there we go. Kind of cover the same footprint. Shrink that down along with the roof. There we go. Now, in theory, I can get these to turn into arches, but so far does not want to let me do that. So I will instead that shorter, there we go. And raise that up just as a little stop along the way if you really wanted it. I'll come in here, and since we're poking around, I wish you could put lanterns on these supports. That seems to be a thing that is not allowed the further I go. I can put one on the ground, but I just didn't really want to. But putting one on the ground over here kind of works. Yeah, more or less. And while I'm on the subject of lamps, put some along here. Hey, Nanners, what's up? I am in the middle of 3D doodling in Tiny Glade, which if you've not seen it. They give you a blank circle of ground and you kind of build terrain and stuff. So, built myself a thing, go with the terrain, and then I started just building. So, realistically, this was going to kind of be a gatehouse type of situation with an actual building, which it is. It just ended up being bigger than the other one. Yeah, at this point, it's more and more just kind of in the decoration phase. So I'm going to shove window there, and some windows top, as long as some centralized windows along this side. Do a double window over here. This area needs a door. I'll have it coming off of this one. Yeah, as you place things, it just kind of adds decoration. So that wheel just popped up. I didn't choose a wheel, and I didn't choose that spade, but as you do things, adds them in. This is a wide enough wall that I want. Another bay window. And if I kind of shove a window on either side, it looks like an extra one, big one. This area should get a lamp, I guess, probably. 2. Theoretically, this is a place you'd go outside and enjoy. Do I want to add to these towers at all? At the moment, no. Going over here. Not really wide enough for a window on that side, so trying to put shovels right in front of my windows. I don't like it. That'll do. Flower in front of the window makes sense. Okay. Are you wide enough for a window, one asks? A corner window, which is not what I'm going for. Okay. Before I do that, do I want to add secondary towers to this tower? Yes, I think I do. Apparently, I can't get any higher than that. So, let's... get a third one in. I can. Nope. Ah, no, I'm hitting the boundary. Possibly over to... At that point, I'm freehanding. I can get behind that. Okay. See if I can. Don't like to let you put these next to each other. Or if I do this in chunks of 2 instead of 3. Okay. Might be able to achieve the same look. I shove it a little higher, maybe? No. Can I shove just one in this gap, though? Well, maybe if I get the gap out from behind the other tower. actually too close together for me to be able to move them safely independently. Okay, the problem is that there's different slope of the roof between a 2-spot and a 3-spot. It would seem. So I think I gotta pull it down. And try that again while getting my camera to cooperate. Okay, so this is too low. Yanked me way too far away from where I was, and apparently does not want to let me back. Gotta love it. Okay. You know, from a distance it looks alright. I'm gonna take it. What I would like to be able to do is just kind of get, there we go, camera control back. Another big one. Face it in this way. A lot of times I feel like I end up with way too many windows just because I don't have a lot of tools in the demo to put things. So windows become a thing to put, but still. A far less usable outdoor area. I'm going to try and put some lanterns in this path, I think. More unwindowed wall. This probably should get something. The window was going, but it was just showing me wall behind it. So, okay. Maybe the opposite. This was too far forward. Now I think if I put a window up, it'll actually... No, it's just going to show the wall behind it, and I've shoved this way too far. So what we're going to do is acknowledge that a window doesn't want to go there, and instead we're going to put it over here. And one in the middle because I can. That all looks okay. It's another place where I would love to have more lamps, but there's not really a good place to put them on this kind of covered bridge situation. Sorry, my camera's going all over the place. I'm trying to get under here. Place one above that door. Got one over here. I guess I could put them like in between these guys. be. Okay, let's put some more road lamps around. Get at least one more here towards the entrance. Let's put it on this side. Okay. Now in some of these places where I can't put other things, let's put a little bit more in the way of foliage. I think here's a corner that could use it. More color. Kinda, yeah, shove it in there. And realistically, this might be more or less where I want to be. I could add a window down there, maybe. I don't know why, though. Turn on the passage of time. And let it start getting dark just to see this place light up. Problem with the limited demo space is in order to give myself this kind of terrain to work with, I lost a lot of the surface area for building on. You can see the windows coming to life and these lanterns lighting up. I think I might want to lower that slightly. Yeah. Realistically, I would like to do a different support, and there's a way to do it. If you put paths underneath the foundations kind of building, just the walls of it, they'll naturally form into arches, and it's a little bit more elegant, I suppose. But because of the cliff it's on, it also makes stairs on these platforms, and I did not want more than this corner to be stairs, so I had to make a trade-off. And up here, I guess the only decoration I can put is windows, but realistically there shouldn't be a room. This is just a covered bridge to get from here over to here. There's a a door onto both balconies. Windows where they more or less make sense. This kind of tri-tower thing is kind of good to go. It is pretty peaceful. It's very chill. It's kind of just doodling around. What I'm gonna do, just while we're here, is gonna show a different. This one I spent, I don't know, an hour or two on. So this one, there's not really anything left for me to do. But because I had all flat ground, I had more building space. So I started with kind of the foundation of all this, and then just built on top of it. So that's what left like a balcony here, and this balcony space. So I just built myself a foundation, and then built a couple of these square buildings on top. Gave this one some towers. Built this little gazebo guy. Give this one big tower. And then, sorry, I'm swinging the camera around too fast. I put, these are the arches I was talking about, if you put path underneath the wall, it forms these big old arches. So I put arches on both sides, and then I kind of just put a little garden under there. Oh gosh, I'm inside the building. But then there's a door, hard to see. There we go, lit up, and another door there. So you can get into either building. And then built myself a little just kind of crossroads of paths and outlined them in walls to make it more pathy. Built in a little gazebo just with these different arched walls. Which, okay, yeah, that's exactly what happened before. I was sitting there just thinking, I wish those arches were taller. And they're as tall as they're going to get. So that's why. And I started this whole thing by just building that foundation, like I said, and then a wall around the perimeter of my build area to blend into the foundation. And then build myself a little central gatehouse. Made sure it got a door, then built some additional guard towers. Yeah, I just really enjoy the procedurally generated things, the way they just have stuff interact. So by building a tower and then another tower in it, you get these cool crenellated edges supporting just around that. And those arches forming because you put a path underneath is another example of that. But yeah, I don't know, there's not really announced, but if you see that full game square, presumably we're going to have plenty of more room to build. But in the meantime, you just get just a little circle yourself, just a little tiny home and community, and can kind of just build. Some of the, I mean, just like with anything, people get really good at stuff. So just look around online at seeing a couple things, because the algorithm knows all, and I started playing this, so the internet knows now that I play it. Sure, it'll get worse now that I've done so publicly. But started getting video suggestions about Tiny Glade, and some of the things people are figuring out how to do to make better, different decorations, and they're getting, like, one guy figured out a way to, kind of on accident, these windows, you put them in, will generate stuff around them, and apparently one of those things can be a ladder. So he figured out, when he got a window with a ladder, how to trick the game into putting a door at the top of the ladder. So you had to climb into the little house, and that's not something you do on purpose, really. It's just if you get a ladder, you can mess with it. So they did a lot to generate, but there's a lot more going. So there's fences that we can't build yet because they're in the demo. Hard to even tell what some of these things are. But flags, it looks like. Might be like an arched window, maybe that's intentionally a door. And that one I can't tell. But then there's a whole color palette. So these are whitewashed, but you can also have this like orangey color or just stone. You can turn the stone pattern on and off. Like you can see that ridge going away when I hover over that. But there's all sorts of additional colors that are still locked. I'm hoping we get some copy and paste tools. I'm hoping we get finer control over the environment. Granted, the larger build area will make a huge difference, but this tool is hard to use because you just rip up massive chunks of the earth. But there's trees, and that one, that might be water features, hard to tell. I don't know what all is planned for this, but yeah, as you're building, you just get the day-night cycle. I haven't messed with photo mode, but there is a photo mode, of course, and it looks real pretty. But yeah, just watching like that, sun rising up, is just very, very nice. Just the free-form ability to doodle with it, and for someone who can't really doodle. I mean, we all doodle, but art has never been my thing. But this does a good job of picking up the pieces, so as long as you don't get the angles too jarring, it kind of sorts itself out. I forget what my last thing was. You can only have 3 zones. From what I understand, if you open a new one, you'll lose access to a third one. Oh, that's what I was just building. But it'll still be there when the full game comes out. Oh, yeah. I learned a good chunk between... This was the first thing I did, was just messing around with it. Make that taller. See, that's actually a good point. I could come back and see what I can do, but like the walls very freeform because I did it by hand, but I've learned better on how to do that. I think this game gave me a hill, and I just went with it, or I might have given myself a hill. I don't really remember. But getting that old balcony, and then just this crazy wizard's tower of additional spires. What I might do now that I know how to do it, I'm going to put this down to the ground, raise it back up to where it was, more or less. Then, in theory, yeah, I now know enough to more or less put these arches, not archers, get that to the edge. There we go. That one was steadfastly refusing to be an arch. Nudge that to the wall, then I should be able to just there. Now it's just free floating. These arches are a little asymmetrical. On one side it's only got two. I wonder if I go through. Oh, jeez. I'm going to get rid of my excess path here. I'm trying to do this again. There we go, kind of more or less centered there. Still not super even, but that's better though. They're at least even enough with each other. But yeah, that now looks supported, and I just got to put this door back in that I lost. So that building makes slightly more sense. Oh yeah, this whole jam. This window presumably created that ladder, which if you finagle it, you can get a door above it, but not something I've messed with. So yeah, I was just kind of throwing things together to see what stuck, so put in a little garden thing with a wall, and then just kind of built this external building, because I could. Oh yeah, I need to put in windows again, because I lost those. That's one I like, the little banner thing. You can't really control what the windows do, but try to more or less be symmetrical with my windows. On at least that particular guy. But yeah, it's just a super chill time to just spend a little half hour when you got nothing better to do. I want to make it sound like you wouldn't just choose this as your better to do thing, but it's a very fun little arts and craftsy, just create something for fun. I hope they give us more information soon on when this is already out. Maybe it's already been announced and I just didn't see it when I checked briefly, but I look forward to having kind of this, if it's just this square or if they make it even bigger, but be able to build like this in one corner and just a sprawling like town kind of idea, and get more of those tools, particularly a copy paste. Like being able to copy so I know two towers are exactly the same radius would be huge. But I think I am more or less happy. I set out to just build from scratch. So we started with just a blank circle and we ended up with this terrain, the bridge across, and our two buildings. That is, I think, where I'm going to call it. I only had until about 2:30 anyway, but I kind of got where I wanted to with this, so I'm going to wrap it up 10 or so minutes early. Thanks for stopping by, handful of you. Nanners. good to hear from you, and I mean, heck, I'll see you later this week. But for now, I'm gonna wrap it up here, and thanks for watching.